Okay. Well, hopefully it won't take that long anyway. But, so area board, formerly known as area board. So that's what I'm here tonight to update you a little bit about the changes that Assembly Bill 1595 brought about. And 1595 was a bill that passed and became effective January 1 of this year, that brought the State Council on Developmental Disabilities closer into compliance with the Federal Developmental Disabilities Act, which is how we're actually funded. So I just wanted to update you on a couple of changes. Some of this may be foreign to you because some of you may not know what we do to begin with to know what we are changing. So we will now be known as, we currently answer our phone as State Council on Developmental Disabilities Area Board 12. We will now answer our phone as State Council on Developmental Disabilities, either A, San Bernardino office, or B, Eastern Sierras and Inland Empire. I'm voting for one because it's less words than number two, but we don't have clarity yet, but our name will change that way. The big thing is that folks need to know is the area boards were merged with State Council approximately 11 years ago. I often say the marriage happened, but it was never consummated, and you can take that how you want. It is now becoming consummated, and so bringing that alignment into place is kind of important. A lot of folks think that the area boards do individual advocacy, and we don't. We do systems issues. So if a family calls, for instance, and says, hey, can you go to this IEP, and there's compelling evidence, we always let them know that we're not there as individual advocates. We're going to see if there's a systems-related issue. And we tell them that because we don't want parents to think, why is she asking that question? So I tell them I'm going to be asking some obscure questions that have nothing to do with your child, but to try to find out if we have a problem with all cases that are similar to yours in a particular district. Individual advocacy, of course, belongs to the Office of Clients' Rights Advocate, which is Veronica Cervantes for Inland Regional Center, and in our other catchment area, it's Mario out of the Fresno office. So when we look at things, we look at systemic issues. However, there's a little bit of a blurry line in the sense of we still have some responsibilities. Well, we have full responsibility in appointing authorized representative. Our statutory obligations and our statutory empowerments have not changed at all. So we still have the authority for reviewing policy procedure, starting and initiating compliance issues, appointing authorized representatives. So for instance, if an adult can't represent themselves, through our office, we can go out and actually assign somebody to be their authorized rep. All of those stay the same. When you're looking in the statute, what happened is it was kind of unique in the sense that when they introduced the bill, they actually cleaned up the Welfare and Institutions Code section that it was at. So you'll find those statutory provisions in a number that's earlier. So if it was at 1200, it might be at 1150 now, because of cleaning the language at the time that they went. So none of those statutory obligations change. What will be changing is kind of the overall piece of the local offices are largely responsible for carrying out what's called the state plan. And the state plan is a 5-year plan that identifies 8 federal areas of emphasis, from self-advocacy to housing to early intervention services to education, et cetera, quality services and supports, and ongoing. And within those, they define what we need to do. It's much more robust than, say, for instance, your performance contract. It's more like a true measurable descriptive IPP. It's like that 1,200 self-advocates will be trained in this particular arena or in this particular topic. And this many will be converted to plain language. And so it's real specific. So the local offices are largely responsible for carrying that out, which is why we do a number of trainings in the community. Those are reported then to the federal government through what we call our basic state grant program. And so when we do trainings, that's why we ask if you're a self-advocate, a family advocate, or a professional, because we have to code things that way to report. So those are largely the changes with 1595 that make changes to the state council local offices. So you'll see a name change. People thought that the numbers were confusing to folks that didn't work in state council to know, I don't know what area number 1 covers, I don't know what area number 4 covers. For us that have been used to it for a while, it's easy because they're numbered sequentially from north to south. So you knew if you were 7 or 8 or below, you were definitely Southern California and so forth. So those are the changes that are brought about with 1595. I don't know if you have questions about that. Otherwise, I'll go on to kind of what we've been doing.
Any questions? No, we're fine.
All blur. Okay. All blur for me too. Oh, and then they'll be changing our titles. So, and this is the reason, is that each area board actually used to be an independent state agency. So the California Constitution allows for one exempt position per state agency. Well, when they merged the area boards with the state council about 12 years ago, they didn't catch that provision. And so the state council as an agency is only allowed one exempt position. Well, every executive director is currently an exempt position, which means we're not civil service, which may be foreign language here, but it means that we didn't go through the process of becoming a classified employee. We have no protections, those kinds of things. So as a result, there's been a lot of write-ups in the Sacramento Bee, about too many exempt positions. And so it caught wind, and legislative council, which is the branch of the legislature that checks and makes sure that everything's in accordance with the law when they read through a bill that's being submitted, caught that on AB 1595 when they were putting it through and asked the author to make sure it was addressed. And so in the bill, it actually said that the exempt positions at the area boards will be transitioned into classified positions. So with that, they'll also be changing the title. So I will either be a manager or a regional branch manager or a regional manager, and I don't know yet either. So those are all things that are coming. I would hope to be a leader more than a manager, but it's a whole different topic. Also, with that, our boards have always been what we call governance boards. So for instance, you're an operating board because you carry the contract for the operational aspects of a nonprofit. Our boards were governance boards. They were all appointed by legislative officials, and they oversaw the governance of a portion of the legislature. And at one time, actually, they were kind of quasi-operational because they oversaw staff when each was an independent office. But when the merger happened, they remain governance boards in the sense that we cover 4 counties. So we have 3 appointees from each board of supervisors and 5 from the governor's office. And that's the only way on our board. The current law changes that and removed the appointing authorities. So they will become strictly what we call advisory committees, giving advice back, which really was the way they were, quote, operating the last couple of years, because they didn't have oversight of budget and stuff once the merger happened. But those will be called regional advisory committees. So you won't hear it anymore as a board of the area board. You really won't hear the term area. We may say formally known as the area board just so people have an idea of what entity we're talking about, because it's kind of, people aren't as familiar with the state council name as they are with the area board name. So our boards will become regional advisory committees to the state council for their geographic area. We're still waiting for headquarters to send down language of what those bylaws will look like for each of those 13 committees throughout the state, and how many members, et cetera, and how folks will get on. We're kind of assuming that, and presuming a little bit, that they'll be appointed by a nominating committee, similar to the way the regional center boards operate. We have a nominating committee that seats them on the board. So you'll hear us saying, oh, our RAC is meeting or something like that, because that's a regional advisory committee. So they'll become advisory committees versus governing boards. So those are the changes. Forgot about that. That'd be important for my board members. That being said, we are scheduled to meet 4 times this year. We had always met every other month, dark in December, unless the chair called a meeting. And so just because we have a large catchment area, we move our board moves to each of the counties that we represent. We kind of feel it's important to get out to the community, hint, hint, in case you ever want to go somewhere else, or not. See the enthusiasm of the board. So we'll be meeting quarterly. A couple other things. We've completed, for the most part, part 1 of our self-determination trainings, and we appreciate Ms. Webster being present at those trainings. We've done 3 in Riverside County, and we've done 3 in San Bernardino County, and appreciate the Consumer Advisory Committee with, I don't know if Ryan's here or not, inviting us to have a good turnout there. We have a couple others that have requested us to come out and do the part 1 training, so we're in the process of scheduling those. Part 2, which will be much more the nuts and bolts with the fiscal management system, hopefully present with us to do the training, will happen, looks like close to maybe April or May and June as we get closer to the deadline. We have been meeting, myself, the Office of Clients' Rights Advocate, Veronica Cervantes, Carol, and Treva have been meeting. We've met twice face to face about getting the Self-Determination Advisory Committee up and running. And I can share with you some tentative things that we've kind of come to an agreement on and what it'll look like. For those of you that this might be a new concept, the Senate Bill 468 or 648, I have dyslexia sometimes, selectively. Depends on the dollar sign. The bill that puts self-determination forward requires and mandates that each regional center, basically, area has a self-determination advisory committee. Half of those members are appointed through the area board, formerly known as the area board, and the other half are appointed by the regional center, and then that additional member is your Office of Clients' Rights Advocate. So what we're saying is, obviously, is the Clients' Rights Advocate. 4 will be appointed by my office, 4 will be appointed by Inland Regional Center. From each of our sides, 2 of them will be from Riverside County, 2 from San Bernardino County. So total will be 4 from Riverside County, 4 from San Bernardino County, so that there's even representation. We will have a common application, so it will be one application that people will do. It will be one interview committee, most likely. We are doing an orientation on January 26th. We're doing 2 of them, actually, and that's a Monday because it's favorite day of the week. We'll be doing one from 3:30 to 4:30 in Cathedral City, and we would be doing, oh no, that's not the right time, is it? Yeah, 1:30 to 2:30 in Cathedral City, and we will be doing one here at IRC in the library from 5:30 to 6:30. Those will be the orientations as to what the process is to become a member of the Self-Determination Advisory Committee. So if someone is interested in being on that advisory committee, it's highly recommended that they attend that. At that time, we will have the applications available to give out to folks that are there. And then the next day or that night, we'll have them posted to both of our websites. We've also come up and agreed with some required curriculum that folks that apply for the advisory committee will need to go through. That class will probably be more like a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 4 each day kind of experience. And what we've agreed is that the folks that will be most likely carrying the cases at the regional center and those people that are interested in sitting on the committee will be cross-trained. We think it's really important because the advisory committee is going to be that body that needs to be patient, needs to be understanding, can help us really solve some of the hurdles that we're coming across in the beginning with implementation of self-determination. And we want everybody trained the same way so that the process is really clear to the committee that's going to be possibly hearing people come forward saying we're having a problem, as well as those that are carrying the cases, so that we're all in the same boat. So January 26th is an important day for the orientation so that we can let people know what those dates will be. Right now we were looking at a Saturday, Sunday. I think we still have up in the air the issue of whether the staff would be able to do it, so we may need to change the date. But there will be required things, and that's going to be open to anybody. Anybody can come. But if someone is interested in sitting on the committee, it will be required that they successfully go through those training curriculum. And that's something that's in the law that says that the people sitting on the advisory committee will be trained in those functions. So we look forward to continuing to move on in the right way. We'll be talking about the roles and responsibilities of those individuals, how to work collaboratively as a committee, how to deal with conflict resolution when people come up and need something fixed and those kinds of things. So I'm kind of looking forward to moving on to that. And I think that's all I have. Oh my gosh, I wasn't that far off. Or did you stop the clock 5 minutes ago?
That's the time.
Oh, that's the time now?